After downloading the Rigid Bodies assignment, you're going to go ahead and open it and press this -Y key, or you can press 1 on the number pad. So right up here, press -Y. That'll put us in the front view. This allows us to duplicate these objects without worrying about whether it's moving backwards or forwards. So if I duplicate that, it just moves like that. If I duplicate it when it's in this view, I can't really move it exactly where I want it to go, and it's going to go outside of this board. So our goal with this is to create a bunch of obstacles and a whole bunch of spheres that will fall down and separate into these columns, and then we'll color them so that it looks like all these random colors are separating into the proper columns. So first let's set up the sphere. I'm going to scale that down a little bit, and now I can duplicate it. So I'm just selecting all these and then pressing Shift D, Shift plus D, and I'll do that a few times. Okay, so right now I have a whole bunch of spheres. If I press play, nothing happens. So what we want to do is add physics to these objects. So I'm going to select all of these spheres and make sure that you have one that's active. So this one is light orange. These ones are dark orange. So the light orange is the active element. So I'm going to click on the physics tab, which looks like a moon circling a planet. Select rigid body, and by default it's set to active. So if I press play, that one ball is going to fall. So we want to apply this to all of our other objects. So what we're going to do is click on Object, and then we're going to go to Rigid Body, and then we're going to click on Copy from Active. So all of those dark orange ones are going to copy the physics settings from the light orange active object. So now when I press play, they will all fall. Right now there's nothing for them to interact with. Like they'll all fall, but nothing to interact with at all. So I'm going to select all these objects down here before I start duplicating, and then make sure that one is active. So I'm going to hold Shift and select one so it's the light orange. And then I'm going to add rigid body. So before it was set to active, and we want to click on that and change it to passive so it won't fall. We also want to change the collision shape so that it's not a ball shape, so it's got the convex hull by default, which was fine for the spheres, but it's not fine for the rest of the objects. So what we want to do is click on that and then select mesh so that it matches the shape of all of the geometry that we're doing here. Now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go Object, Rigid Body, and then Copy from Active so that all of these have those options. So if I press play now, they'll hit those objects. So your goal with this assignment is to duplicate objects and create little obstacles for the spheres to run into. So you'll do a lot more than this. This is just for the example. And then you'll press play, and the spheres will separate into the different sections. So that's part one. So now that we have the simulation working, we want to go to our material preview here. So up at the top right, if you don't remember, we have wireframe, solid, material preview, and rendered view. So we're going to go to material preview. Mine's taking a moment to switch over to it. Okay, so now we can see color. And what I'm going to do is go to wireframe actually really quick so that I can select all the spheres. So like I'll click on one and then drag a box over the rest of those in this column. And then I'm going to go to the material tab. Looks like a beach ball. Click new. And then as soon as that loads up, I will change the color. And then I'm going to, in the viewport here, I'm going to press Control L and link materials, or you can click on this drop down arrow right here, copy material to selected. So now all of those spheres have the blue color. Now let's do the same thing to this one. Add a new material, change the color, copy material to selected. Same thing with this one. New material, change the color, copy to selected. So I'm just going to do that on all of these. All right, so if I go into my material preview, now I can see them. Let's add some colors to the background here so that we can see, or at the very least this back one here, so that we can see the other objects. There we go. Now I can see those, so doesn't really matter if the rest of them have colors. So I press play, all of these are mixed up, and then they fall into the correct boxes. And that's all there is to this assignment.